Welcome into the Mercer County Football Show here on WBCB1490.com alongside the Trentonians George O'Gorman, Mike Sampson with you. Week number 2 of the season in the books. And we saw a couple of teams rebound, and we have a very surprising 2-0 team. A couple of surprising 2-0 teams, actually.
2-0 teams. Two teams that a lot of people, I guess, that projected were because of, really heavy graduation losses, weren't going to be strong at all this year, and that was Lawrence and Princeton. And instead, they both turned around, and now they're 2-0.
Yeah.
And more power to them. I mean, Nate Jones, the new coach over at, or the longtime assistant who became the new coach at Lawrence, replacing Rob Radis, has done an outstanding job with the Cardinals. They just went into Delran, was it? And they beat a very good Delran team, who was perennially one of the strong teams in Burlington County.
Sure.
And Princeton, on the other hand, turns around and shuts out Ewing, which had been projected to be a strong team this year in contention for their division in the WJFL. And, Princeton, more power to them. I mean, Charlie Gallagher's team, what can you say about it? He's got the young junior quarterback, David Beamer, doing an outstanding job. Liam Hellstrom, and their defense has been phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, to shut out an explosive Ewing team as they did, more power to the Princeton Little Tigers. And, they'll get a good test this week as they go on the road for the first time to play at Hightstown on Saturday night. Interesting couple Saturday night games this year, which we haven't had before. I think it's all affected by the Jewish holiday on Thursday or at sundown Friday. But at any rate, the Princeton Little Tigers go on the road to Hightstown. Hightstown really wants to obviously bounce back after that humiliating loss to Hopewell Valley on last Friday night. And Hightstown's not that bad of a team. I think they had beaten Steinert in their opening game, but they just couldn't do anything against the not only Lorenzo Bryan, who ran for 5 touchdowns and 240 yards, but the outstanding blocking that the Hopewell Valley Bulldogs were able to get. Matt Graziano, I believe, he did an outstanding job. Not only did he have a couple of sacks, but he led the blocking. So it looks like Dave Caldwell's going to have another, strong team again at Hopewell. They're idle this week, and then I think they come back next week to play Notre Dame.
Yeah. Should be a very good game coming up in a few weeks. The Notre Dame Irish getting back on track this past week as well. We talked about the two surprising 2-0 teams. Well, I think through the first couple of weeks, there's a couple of teams that we can tell are pretty darn good, too, and that's the Allentown Redbirds and Hopewell Valley. Hopewell Valley hasn't fallen off all that much.
Hopewell Valley, as we said, has the bye week this week. And Allentown, where do they go? They go over to play Nottingham.
Yeah.
And Nottingham rebounded with a good win last week over at West Windsor Plainsboro South on Friday night. And now Nottingham will be at Jim Wilno Senior Field on noontime. Kickoff on Saturday to take on Jay Graber's Allentown Redbirds, who really have quite a balance, offense there with Drew Apostolico, Michael Curry, the quarterback's got a couple of TD runs already, Jake DeRizzi, and Jordan Winston, only a sophomore, I believe, and he's really been doing a good job for the Allentown Redbirds. And unfortunately, because those guys scored the touchdowns, they get the notoriety.
Right.
But the guys in the line are really doing an outstanding job for the Allentown Redbirds, who everybody thought they lost some big people, but Allentown has bounced right back, and it just adds more to the resume of Jay Graber. Now they're in a different group, South Jersey Group 3, and they're in contention to get to the playoffs in that group. So Jay just continues to do an outstanding job with the Allentown Redbirds, and not only was their first game a big test over at Notre Dame, where the last time that they had been in there, Jay was undefeated, and his Allentown team got knocked off by the Irish. Then they come home last week and they knock off a good West Windsor Plainsboro North team, and now they head over to Nottingham. So right off the bat, 3 major tests for the Allentown Redbirds.
Yeah, that Allentown-Nottingham game will be on the WBCB Sports Network. You'll be able to hear the live play-by-play starting at 11:45 on WBCB 1490 and WBCB1490.com. When we come back here on the Mercer County Football Show, we'll take a look at the results around Mercer County last week. You're watching the Mercer County Football Show presented by the St. Francis Medical Center, your heart hospital in the city of Trenton.
Discover the dealer for the people, Haldeman Ford Subaru, Route 33 in Hamilton Township. One of the region's finest state-of-the-art service facilities for all makes and models. A service facility so good, local school districts get their buses serviced at Haldeman. Police fleets, local municipalities get their cars and trucks serviced at Haldeman. From oil changes to tire sales, Haldeman Ford services all makes and models. And they offer tires for just $10 over cost on name brand tires like Goodyear and Pirelli. And their waiting room offers complimentary food. And there's a special Wi-Fi room available for your use. So no matter where you purchase your car, get it serviced at Haldeman Ford, the dealership for the people on Route 33 in Hamilton Township.
Jerry Blavitt here to tell you about St. Francis Medical Center, the heart hospital in the city of Trenton. St. Francis Medical Center is one of the region's top cardiac care centers, serving all of Mercer, Bucks, and Burlington counties. Their staff of highly trained physicians provide state-of-the-art heart care to patients with cardiovascular disease and pride themselves as being the only regional heart center to offer a full spectrum of individualized services. And Consumer Report ranks St. Francis Medical Center in the top 10 hospitals in New Jersey for safety, and the #1 hospital in Mercer County, St. Francis Medical Center, the Heart Hospital.
Welcome back to the Mercer County Football Show here on WBCB1490.com. That's George, I'm Mike. Thanks so much for joining us this week, presented by the St. Francis Medical Center, your heart hospital in the city of Trenton. Taking a look around the results this week, we've already talked about a few. Rancocas Valley was victorious, 30-12. We mentioned Lawrence 26-3 over Delran, and Princeton 7-0 over Ewing. Moves the Little Tigers to 2-0, and you mentioned Liam Hellstrom really leading that team as is head coach Charlie Gallagher.
That's right, and an outstanding performance, not only by Liam Hellstrom. He's getting a lot of the notoriety because he's been doing it on both sides of the ball. Right. Also on, he's a three-way standout, not only defense, offense. He's kicking field goals. He returns kickoffs. Mm-hmm. He just does it all. And his brother last year, who was an outstanding athlete, went to Clemson but said, I'm retired from football. He was one of the better players, probably one of the top 10 players in Mercer County last year, but never got a chance to win a game.
Right.
But Liam is the third brother. They come out of Cranberry, and they've done an outstanding job for the Princeton Little Tigers on homecoming weekend last week at Princeton. And Liam is just, he's one of the biggest stars so far in Mercer County because primarily nobody expected the Little Tigers to be doing what they're doing right now.
Right. Some of the other results from around Mercer County on Friday evening saw Allentown defeat West Windsor-Plainsboro North 35-13, the final in that game. A really good effort once more. Allentown very good rushing the football, balanced scoring with their team, and West Windsor-Plainsboro North, unfortunately for the North Knights, a program that's still building, not quite there yet, and they ran into a buzzsaw this past weekend.
Getting back to that Allentown game, you talk about the quarterback, Michael Curry. I think he ran for 116 yards on 13 carries and a touchdown. He completed 5 of 10 passes for 78 yards and 2 more touchdowns. So he's really one of the guys that I don't want to say was unexpected, but he's been doing a phenomenal job. And let's face it, Jay Graber, I keep singing his praises all the time because I still think he's one of the best quarterbacks to come out of Mercer County all time, and I think he's the best quarterback that's Notre Dame's ever had, at least that I've seen. Mm-hmm. And, Jay's just a great offensive genius, I would say, because he's had running backs every year, and even when his guys graduate, he just plugs them right in, and the Redbirds never really miss a beat.
Other results from Friday night saw Hopewell Valley 56-12 over Hightstown, Nottingham 27-0 over West Windsor-Plainsboro South. Moving on to Saturday, game number 1 on Saturday saw the Tornadoes get back on track, 41-13. George, you and Sean Lerman did that game, and Trenton was really dominant all the way through.
Not to demean anything that the Tornadoes did, because apparently, obviously they've got a lot of balance. Their big offensive line opened holes immediately. And Steiner tried to do a pretty good job defensively against them, but Kyle Muller was just under duress the whole time. He had a couple of passes that were tipped. He had a couple that were intercepted and returned long for touchdowns. Keon Tootle had an interception return of about 29 yards. And in that game, the Tornadoes were just dominating right out of the gun. They were up 14-0 in the first quarter, and they made it 30-0 at halftime. And Steiner really couldn't do anything. Stephen Christopher scored a couple of touchdowns for the Spartans, but they were pretty much manhandled. They just didn't have the the material that Trenton had. And the amazing part about Trenton, most of these kids are young.
Yeah.
They had sophomores, Andrew Holt, Tommy Neal. I think Andrew Holt is only, Tommy Neal, I believe, is only a junior. Samaj Willis is a sophomore. I mean, they've just got some really weapons in there. And now comes a big test for the Tornadoes. I mean, obviously their opening game against Rancocas was a huge test. Now they go down to Lenape, where the Indians, I believe, are 2-0. And as Tariq Holman said the other day, yeah, we got a big one. He said, we're going against the New York Giants. Well, actually, Lenape is, they're really strong.
Yeah.
And RV, as we said, not only coming off that convincing win at Trenton, but then last week go down into South Jersey and beat a very good Eastern Regional team, which every year is one of the top programs in South Jersey. So RV's 2-0 and coming back into Mercer County this Saturday night to play at Notre Dame. We'll see how the rejuvenated Irish are. Mike Milazzo, what a phenomenal game he had for the Irish over at Hamilton. I mean, he kicked a field goal. He actually, Notre Dame, I think, scored, what was it, about 14 points in the final quarter to come from behind and defeat, the Hamilton Hornets.
Yeah.
But Milazzo had a big game. I think he had a couple of sacks. He had like 8 tackles. He kicked a couple extra points. He kicked a field goal. I mean, he's just, we knew last year that Mike Milazzo was very good.
Right.
Alex Roman missed the opening game against Allentown for Notre Dame, but he came back, and he and Milazzo really combined to do an outstanding job. And Campion, the quarterback, he's starting to really develop. I mean, remember, last week against Allentown was his first game.
Right.
Because he had broken his hand last year in preseason and never really got into a varsity game. But he's come back, and he's run that very balanced Irish offense. And, with Chappie, unfortunately, Chappie not at the game. He was recovering from some heart problems that had occurred earlier in the week. And, of course, you remember back in the late 90s when Chappie missed about 6 years, took 6 years off from his great coaching career as he recovered from a heart attack, and he's come back. And after that loss to Allentown, that was really an embarrassing type of loss for the Irish to get handled like that by one of their former greats, Jay Graber and his Redbirds. But the Irish came back, and hopefully Chappie will be feeling a lot better this week when they're home to host Rancocas Valley, which, in all honesty, could be another humbling loss for the Irish, because RV's got some weapons, as you saw.
Yeah.
They're very good.
Yeah, they certainly are. The Irish were victorious 23-14 over Hamilton, and we certainly do send our best and get well wishes to Chappie Moore. When we come back here on 1490 WBCB, WBCB1490.com, the Mercer County Football Show, we'll give you a preview of this week's upcoming games. There's some good ones. You're watching the Mercer County Football Show presented by the St. Francis Medical Center, your heart hospital in the city of Trenton.
Don't forget, if you miss any of your local high school sports action, you can read all about it in tomorrow's edition of the Trentonian. For your complete local and national news 7 days a week, it's the Trentonian, or online at thetrentonian.com. The only newspaper serving Bucks, Burlington, and Mercer County 7 days a week, it's the Trentonian.
Hi, Merrill Reese to tell you about our good friends at the Revere Ristorante Italiano in nearby Ewing Township at 802 River Road. I can tell you that from South Philadelphia to New York's Mulberry Street, there's no better Italian cuisine than that served at the Revere. Start your meal with one of their great appetizers or salads. Entrees include outstanding veal dishes, fresh seafood daily, excellent steaks and chops, homemade pasta dishes, daily specials, and much more. You can also enjoy their bar area, where on most weekends, entertainment is offered. The Revere also does off-premise catering, and you can accommodate private parties for any affair, including business functions. Call the Revere Ristorante Italiano for more information and reservations at 609-882-6365. 882-6365. The Revere Restaurante Italiano open Monday through Friday for lunch and 7 days for dinner at 802 River Road, right off the Wilbertha Road exit on Route 29 in nearby Ewing Township.
Welcome back to the Mercer County Football Show here on WBCB1490.com alongside George O'Gorman, Mike Samsel with you, taking a look around the Mercer County games this week. No games for you on Friday night on the WBCB Sports Network, but there are some good ones in the area, probably headlined by that Trenton-Lenape game.
And if you don't want to travel down 206 down into the Medford area to that Lenape game, and by the way, Lenape's got a nice field there, and they got a very good football team this year. They've had 4 straight 4-win seasons, and they're already off to a 2-0 start. There's some interesting games, including the big game between West Windsor Plainsboro South at West Windsor Plainsboro North, and that would probably North would have to be considered a definite, heavy favorite in that game. I don't even think West Windsor South has scored this year.
I don't believe so, no.
And that's the big game in the suburban area. You got Delran playing at Robbinsville as the Ravens try to get their first win, and Delran coming off their loss to Lawrence. And, of course, another very interesting game, as we mentioned earlier, Steve Everett, the former coach at Princeton High, now in his first season at his alma mater, Willingboro, and they come back into Mercer County, and they're playing at Ewing, where the Ewing Blue Devils, Drew Bessler's ball club, off 2 very close losses, including the 7-0 loss at Princeton last week. They'll be making their home debut at the John Hausman Football Complex in Steve Mensch Field, and they'll be hosting Willingboro, and what should be an interesting game Friday night. Could be a nice entertaining night if you don't want to travel.
Yeah, it could be a lot of interesting games on Friday night. Saturday, 2 games for you on the WBCB Sports Network. We start with the Trentonian pregame show at 11:45, 12 o'clock kickoff between Allentown and Nottingham. Nottingham recovered in a big way last week following their loss to Lenape. Should be a good test to see the North Stars take on the Redbirds. This, I think, will give you a pretty good gauge of where the North Stars are at this year.
Next couple of weeks probably should determine who the strong teams are in Mercer County this season. Not taking anything away from the 2-0 teams right now, Princeton and Lawrence. But you've got Allentown at 2-0, you got Hopewell at 2-0, and you got Nottingham at 1-1. Nottingham's lost in that opening game. They did have a lot of kids that were making their varsity debut. They lost to a very good Lenape team, in all honesty. They came back last week and beat a not very strong West Windsor South team. Now this should be the first real indicator of what we can expect from the North Stars under John Adams the rest of the season. Also
coming up on Saturday night, Princeton takes on Hightstown, and heard on the WBCB Sports Network 107.7 FM, 107.7thebronx.com. Saturday night, Rancocas Valley comes into Monsignor Walter Nolan Field to take on the Irish of Notre Dame. Not sure if Chappie Moore will be with the team this week or not. We'll certainly keep you updated. Follow us on Twitter for that story. But it's a good Rancocas Valley team. After what we saw Notre Dame struggle with a couple of weeks back with that Allentown game, Notre Dame, they're going to have to come out and play a darn near perfect game to stick around with Rancocas Valley, I think.
Yeah, there's no question about it. But, hey, let's give the Irish some credit. I think they improved last week. And the combination at linebacker in there with Alex Roman, and we mentioned Mike Malazzo. They got Campion got people to throw to. He's got Jake Litka, who's an outstanding receiver, and he's got Charles Hagan, the wide receiver, who had a couple of big catches for them for Notre Dame last week. Litka was 5 for 103. And hey, if Notre Dame can get some blocking up front, and remember this Notre Dame offense. They've got a lot of veterans.
They do? Absolutely.
Stefanos Carpentinos leading the offensive blocking up front. Maybe if they can give Campion some time and he can set up in the pocket. I don't know if that real quick, fast-paced Irish offense that Chappie wanted to put in this year will be effective against Rancocas Valley. But, hey, Chappie's been around a long time. And even if he's not on the sidelines, the program that he's put in there at Notre Dame, it really can continue. And as we said, Coach Turco, Coach Fisher last week, and John McKenna up in the press box. Hopefully John McKenna's okay, and the Irish will be able to make it 2 in a row now.
Yeah, hopefully so. I mean, that's going to be a very interesting game coming up on Saturday night because it gives you a test. And one thing about Rancocas Valley over the years, they've shown to be a bit inconsistent, a bit undisciplined. They can be had.
They can be had, but maybe this team, I would have thought the same thing until they went down to Eastern.
Right.
Again, I don't know a lot about Eastern Regional, but I know traditionally they're a very strong team. And we saw a lot of weapons on that Rancocas Valley team, led by Jordan Sadusky, the quarterback, and Bradley, the running back, 2 weeks ago over at Trenton. So, this is another test for RV coming in here. Still haven't played a home game and won't for a couple of weeks because of some problems that developed when they laid the turf on their new AstroTurf field. Some problem with the stone underneath.
Right.
They had to rip it up and redo it, and they won't be playing a home game, I think, until about the middle of October.
Princeton at Hightstown taking place on Saturday night. We mentioned that game. 2 games for you on the WBCB Sports Network this week. Allentown takes on Nottingham. That game high noon on 1490 WBCB at 7 p.m. starting at 6:45 with the Trentonian pregame show. It will be the Notre Dame Irish playing host to the Rancocas Valley Red Devils. Partner, should be another interesting week of Mercer County football coming up this week, and we'll see, again, I think this week, you said, the next couple of weeks, we'll start to see the cream kind of rise to the top.
As we get in, this will be the 3rd week of the season. We get to the 4th week next week, which is pretty much just at almost the halfway point.
Yeah.
So the game should get interesting. The next week, I think we have a revamped schedule because of Yom Kippur.
Yeah, a lot of games are on Thursday night next week.
So it'll be interesting next week. But stay tuned, and thanks for joining us. And I got to mention one thing, though, in the passing, and I know it is not football related, but one of the all-time great coaches in Mercer County history, Andy Greener, passed away last week. Won 560 games as the Ewing baseball coach, founded the soccer program there. So he passed away, and that's a loss for all Mercer County sports, was the passing of Andy Greener, legendary coach at Ewing High School.
Yeah, it certainly is. We send our condolences to everyone over at Ewing and the Greener family. That'll do it for this week's edition of the Mercer County Football Show here on WBCB1490.com. And thanks to St. Francis Medical Center, your heart hospital in the city of Trenton. Also, thanks to you for joining us. George and I will be back next week. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.